Hey, Marcus, House with you here. This week, astounding work at Starbase continues with a huge push towards flight and rapid work continuing at the launch and the production sites. Blue Origin loses the legal case against NASA on the human landing system, but what does this mean? Delays on Crew 3 for medical reasons and weather, a few quick updates as well on Ariane 6 to talk about, which is the successor to Ariane 5. Is this next rocket in development going to compete with the insane innovation going on around the world? Then we have a flood of Falcon Heavy launches coming soon. The next year is going to be incredibly exciting.
Okay, Neal, we can see you coming down the ladder now.
Starting at the build site this week, progress of the new wide bay has rapidly sped up with many pieces of the structure rising up into the air. Based on the aerial views by the incredible RGV aerial photography, the wide bay's dimensions measure roughly 50 metres wide, 35 metres deep and 90 to 100 metres tall. This provides more than twice as much floor space as the current high bay next to it, with enough room for SpaceX to stack 3 or 4 ships or booster tank sections at once. This will rapidly increase the production capacity of these vehicles. Progress on future ships has also continued, with Ship 22's thrust section being flipped to its correct orientation, and that is now ready for stacking. Its middle liquid oxygen section was also spotted covered with the insulation blanket layer, and this sits between the steel and the tiles, which is an added layer of protection against the heat during re-entry. And this, I think, is going to help also continue insulating that area somewhat if the vehicle loses a tile or two in the flight. Most notably, the nose cone barrel for the same ship was spotted with the label here showing that this is 3.6mm steel rather than the typical 4mm. This is going to help with overall dry mass, and terrific views of all of this there by Nick and Mary with NASA Spaceflight. Now, we recently saw the B2.1 test tank lifted onto the booster test stand. Now, we believe this stand is going to be used to simulate the thrust of the 20 outer Raptor engines. This is because we can see these hydraulic rams spaced around the bottom of the structure, similar to what we've seen in the past when testing Starship engine mount points. Over the last few months, we've seen people using the nickname Can Crusher for this test stand, and it isn't too difficult to see why. The thrust from 20 Raptors, with each producing around 185 metric tons of thrust force, adds up to around 3,700 metric tons of force. It's going to be very interesting to see how these tests perform. Over at the launch complex, work has steadily been progressing as teams continue to prepare the launch pad and Booster 4 for its test campaign. Early in the week, Raptor 57 was delivered to the launch site to be installed onto the booster. Work also continues on the metal heat shield structure placed around the engines to protect the delicate plumbing and the electric components incorporated into the 29 closely packed engines. Furthermore, the composite overwrapped pressure vessels, or COPV tanks, have recently received a thermal insulation blanket around them in preparation for these new aero covers to be installed on top. Those covers we recently spotted by RGV lined up next to each other on the ground next to Booster 4. Close by, while the rented LR11350 crane was being dismantled, SpaceX's own LR11000 crane continued having its parts delivered to the launch site, and as these new parts arrived, they were promptly put together. We'll be seeing this crane ready for action before you know it. At the orbital launch tower, the cable chain that was installed last week has now been connected to the carriage to feed power and hydraulics to the catching arms. Additional hardware has been attached to the bottom of the chopstick arms as well. These seem to be attached by a huge hinge, which provides the ability to swing up and inward towards either the ship or the booster. Of course, the trouble with catching the vehicle on two hardpoints is that there is still one uncontrolled degree of freedom where the ship or booster is able to swing parallel to the arms. Now, that is obviously not ideal for precision stacking. It's believed that these additions are the start of a fixture to lock into those lower hardpoints to produce total control of the vehicle while stacking. In fact, if we look over at Booster 5, where that is currently undergoing stacking in the high bay, we may have already spotted the start of these new longer hardpoints. By zooming in and counting 6.5 rings straight down from the catching hardpoint, you'll see the lower hardpoint for the booster right here. We also expect the same system to be used for the lifting of the ships as well. Speaking of the tower systems, early in the week this part was delivered to the launch site and was posted on Twitter by O with the photo taken by Golden Boy. The speculation here suggests that this could serve as a hose guide for the ship's quick disconnect system. This would allow transfer of the propellant and the power from the tower to the ship. Also interesting was Eric X on Twitter posting an animation here of a possible spin separation method, and this shows Starship pitching up just before cutting off. Eric X stated that the movement and the velocity may be off, however Elon replied saying that this was pretty close. It's interesting to note here that if this is very similar to reality, will the upper stage ignition actually help to flip the booster around? Very cool to see. As always, we appreciate the amazing work done by the 3D artists out there. Please do subscribe to their content where you can, as they have this amazing ability to allow all of us to visualize these ideas in a way that just works so well. It sadly isn't always as easy for them to get the support that they need, so thanks very much. It's amazing of you to support what they do, as well as supporting what we do right here. By the way, it is done. It's over. Well, hopefully it's over. Jeff Bezos looks to have finally accepted the decision on who will be developing the initial lander system for NASA's return to the moon. The US Court of Federal Claims ruled against Blue Origin's claim that the decision process for the HLS was flawed, and Jeff has accepted this decision seemingly gracefully, tweeting out that this was not the decision that they wanted, but we respect the court's judgment and wish full success for NASA and SpaceX on the contract. Elon, of course, couldn't help himself but tweet out his reaction to the decision with a polite and welcoming gesture in the form of this meme. So hopefully this means that there won't be any more escalations of the lawsuit in future. For now, at least, NASA will likely return as soon as possible to continue the HLS development process with SpaceX. As we've seen in Tim's interview with Elon, a lot of aspects to the landing system are not yet decided. For example, will they use the side thruster idea or not? So saying all this, it's not all blue for Blue Origin. They rolled out the New Glenn Pathfinder into the open to give us a glimpse of it out in the wild. Nice shot there by Kyle Montgomery. Obviously this is not flight hardware, but more tests of dimensions, logistics and fit checks. It might enable them to test processing of the stage before launch and after landing. Now, this is the same Pathfinder that we've seen evidence of for quite some time now, so this isn't brand new, but all the same, it's nice to see something rolling out of the facility there. Okay, so what is more exciting than watching a Falcon Heavy launch? Well, how about 4 of them? Yep, that is exactly what we can expect throughout the next year. In fact, there may even be a possibility of a 5th mission with USSF-67 also anticipated to be a heavy variant, but not yet confirmed by the US military. There will be a trio of launches, all for US national security. The payloads for all of those 3 missions are classified, so we're not going to know a lot about those. But then we also have the Viasat-3 broadband satellite that will require the huge power of the Falcon Heavy, and then what should be the most exciting mission, NASA's Psyche mission, which will then launch next year to arrive at its destination in 2026. Here it's going to explore a metallic asteroid orbiting the Sun between Mars and Jupiter. So all these missions I think are going to be hugely exciting. It's been much longer than I'd like since we've seen a Falcon Heavy lift off. The incredible booster separation and double booster landings, these are just incredible to witness every time. They are quite rare currently though. The last was from NASA's Kennedy Space Center in June of 2019. This was the STP-2 mission, placing 24 small satellites into orbit as part of a demonstration mission. 2 months prior to that mission, we saw the Arabsat-6A satellite successfully put into orbit, and then of course we can't forget Starman cruising around the neighbourhood in Elon Musk's cherry red Tesla back in February of 2018. There were meant to be 2 launches for Falcon Heavy this year, but unfortunately a mix of range scheduling conflicts and payload delays pushed these missions into 2022. So yes, some pretty cool milestones coming up there, including Falcon Heavy's first national security mission, which is going to head out direct into a geostationary orbit. While the center core in this one is going to be expendable, the recovery of side boosters is going to be quite the spectacle, as we should see the first recovery attempt using 2 drone ships side by side. This is unprecedented at this point. Can you imagine how this is going to look? Many of us are wondering whether these 2 drone ships will be spaced close enough to actually see them in a single camera shot, or if they will be separated well away from each other. Now, I'm very much hoping that there's going to be a drone or aircraft to capture this from above, as this is going to be absolutely stunning to witness. 2022 is just around the corner now, and there is already plenty to look forward to here from SpaceX, with at least 6 cargo and Crew Dragon missions and other commercial and Starlink satellite launches lined up. It's sure to be a massive launch schedule. Not to mention, of course, the continued Starship development and testing. Pretty amazing stuff here, all made on Earth by humans. Now, there is also something else quite interesting lurking around the corner in 2022 as well. Ariane Group expects Ariane 6 to fly next year as well, and there is already about 20 flights booked on this new launch vehicle. It's going to be, of course, the successor of Ariane 5, the current workhorse of the European Space Agency. Ariane 6, though, is expected to cost only half of Ariane 5 while carrying about the same payload, so this is going to be a massive improvement and will allow much more affordable launches in the future. The payload capability should see it delivering around 20 metric tons to low Earth orbit or around 10 metric tons to a geostationary transfer orbit. That is for the stronger of the two variants. This variant, called Ariane 6-4, will have 4 solid rocket boosters, or SRBs. These are the P120Cs. Interestingly, a single one of these will also be the new first stage of the Vega C rocket, which is a 2.3 metric ton to low Earth orbit launch vehicle used by ESA as well. So yes, it is nice to see the SRB design can be used for multiple vehicles. So looking at all this, how does the launch cost compare to, say, a Falcon 9? Well, even in the most powerful version, the launch cost works out to be around 5,500 euros per kilogram of payload, which is currently roughly around 6,400 US dollars per kilogram. This is actually over 50% above that of Falcon 9, so it doesn't compare too well there. With the Ariane 5, the current upper stage is not capable of restarts, so it's excellent to see that Ariane 6 will be using the new restartable Vinci engine. This means that it will have the capability to perform even more complex in-orbit maneuvers. It runs on hydrogen and oxygen, and it uses the expander cycle like the famous RL-10 by Aerojet Rocketdyne. In comparison though, it will have 60% more thrust and an incredible specific impulse of around 457 seconds. Not quite as high as the RL-10, but very close. It certainly needs to be a powerful and efficient engine, since the upper stage is expected to be quite heavy, with around 6 metric tons in dry mass compared to 31 tons of propellant mass. This makes the ratio of propellant mass to dry mass around 5. To compare, the Centaur 3 upper stage, the workhorse upper stage of United Launch Alliance, has a ratio of about 9, so Centaur has it easily beat there. While I think it's awesome to see the European rockets getting updated, Ariane 6 doesn't really feel like it's trying to keep up with its competition already flying, let alone what we are going to be seeing created in Boca Chica. It's still using partially solid propellants as well, and it's not reusable in any way. Saying this, Ariane Group expects a reusable successor of Ariane 6 to be up and running somewhere around 2030, so at least it's somewhere on the distant horizon. What's also interesting is the main engine of the core stage. This is still an open cycle engine. Not that there's anything wrong with open cycle, of course. If you are a new rocket development company like a lot of the small satellite launchers, going for this simple, reliable but slightly inefficient engine cycle is fine. But if you've been in the rocket business for over 50 years now, you would think that they'd at least be starting to tackle a staged combustion design. Maybe I'm being just a little too hard on them. What do you think? Is this updated design going to be out of date before it launches? Let me know in the comments. The developments with the new supporting launch infrastructure are critical as well, of course, and ESA's launch site in French Guiana is well underway. Just recently we were provided with all new footage. The quick disconnect system has been tested extensively, and the deluge system test is incredible to watch. This is going to spray huge volumes of water on the launch pad and beneath the launch table to protect both the launch vehicle and its payload. The water will largely absorb and deflect the tremendous acoustic energy generated at liftoff. This they estimate to be around 180 decibels at launch with Ariane 6. Noise like this, as we learned from our explosive potential video, can do serious damage, so the deluge system reduces this a great deal. During the launch, around 700 metric tons of water are sprayed over the pad. This, for comparison, is about half of what is planned for the Space Launch System. Sadly, we still don't know anything more about what is planned in this regard for Super Heavy. While Ariane 6 with 4 SRBs will have an impressive 1,800 tons of thrust, Super Heavy aims to quadruple that value after a few iterations, so hopefully we are going to see some more information on the Super Heavy launch stand very soon. Now, a quick update on the Crew 3 launch that we talked about in last week's video. Obviously, that launch has not happened yet. It was originally scheduled to take off last weekend. However, it was then rescheduled to midweek due to the weather conditions along the flight path not looking great. At the start of the week, however, the launch was pushed even further back. So why that delay? Well, NASA stated that it was due to a minor medical issue involving one of the crew members. It wasn't actually disclosed which of the 4 this might be, but they did specifically point out that it was not a medical emergency or related to COVID-19. The team are continuing to monitor crew health as they evaluate potential launch opportunities. The weather seems to be the cause of the most current delays this weekend. The last earliest possible launch date that I've seen was proposed to be Monday the 8th of November. However, that still could push out further. Just check out the latest news on that as it arises. Now, along with the delays on the Crew 3 launch, this is also causing issues for Crew 2. As it stands right now, NASA may even bring Crew 2 back home before Crew 3 launches, meaning that we won't see the usual handover that we would typically see. So yes, good luck to Crew 3 NASA astronauts Raja, Tom and Kayla, along with Matthias from ESA. They are going to have a lengthy stay at the space station for a 6-month period, estimated to return sometime in late April next year. It's so wonderful seeing Crew Dragon on these rotations. It's very easy to think of these as routine at this point, but remember that Crew Dragon is still a very young vehicle, so I'm incredibly excited to see these launches. Dragon is really helping to lower the cost to orbit already, and interestingly, of course, just recently, Dmitry Rogozin, the Director General of the Russian Space Agency, said in a press conference that in our view, SpaceX has already acquired enough experience for us to be able to put cosmonauts on Crew Dragon. Now that is a pretty spectacular thing to hear from Russia, as they have been quite critical of SpaceX in the past. Only the last year or two has the tide really turned here. Just a few months ago as well, we saw Rogozin stating that Elon Musk realizes many of the ideas and thoughts that we wanted to realize but did not get to because of the breakup of the Soviet Union. Our space program halted for quite some time. He also added as well that we respect him as an organizer of the space industry and as an inventor who is not afraid to take risk. So yes, who knows, perhaps we're going to see cosmonauts signing up for some trips to the ISS in the near future on Crew Dragon. So yes, that is what's been happening this week, but also there are a few interesting launches coming up soon as well. We have JAXA getting ready for the Raise 2 flight, which has been delayed twice now due to technical issues and weather. That will be sending up 9 demonstration satellites in a rideshare deal. We have Rocket Lab's launch, hopefully coming in just days as well, which will again hopefully be attempting that booster recovery. As tweeted the other day, the Black Sky satellites are integrated and ready for launch. Finally, it looks like the next Starlink launch is about to happen potentially this coming week. We've recently seen that they are struggling to fulfill orders for the internet kits due to the frustrating microchip shortage, and that is now even shown on Starlink's FAQ page. I don't know if this is also causing issues getting the actual satellites ready for launch as well, but regardless, we will hopefully be seeing the next dedicated polar launch very soon. Then we're also awaiting the next, hopefully non-sideways launch of Astra as well. There's a lot to look forward to, and thank you for watching all the way through, liking and subscribing to what I do. That is most awesome of you. To all the team of you out there helping as patrons or YouTube members right here, I am so grateful to each and every one of you. Thank you so much. And also to all of the amazing people that have helped so much on the merch store as well. A lot of you really love the Light This Candle shirt, which is awesome. You can pick that up with any of the other design variations below. If you like what we're doing and you'd like to help support directly, you can sign up as a YouTube member or patron. That will give you access to our locked Discord channel so that we can all chat directly. And also, along with being listed right there, you can also view ad-free versions of these videos before they go live as well. In the tile in the bottom left today, we have my midweek video from a little over a week ago. Lots of great comments on that one. In the top right is my latest video, and in the bottom right, a video that YouTube thinks that you will like. Are they right though? I don't know, only you can judge that one. Thanks as always for watching all this way, and we'll see you all in the next video.